This week, I'm happy to welcome the person that is responsible for me being a Rangers fan, probably the most opinionated Rangers fan that I know, a wealth management staff writer at Forbes. We argue all the time about the Rangers and about hockey, so I figured it might be fun to record it. My first cousin, the biggest Ranger fan that I know, Jason Bisnoff. Welcome to the show.
That's really a lot of pressure that I'm the reason you're a Rangers fan. I'm really sorry about that. I could have raised you and said like, hey, we're Avalanche fans, or hey, we're something else good. But sorry about that.
I mean, I didn't really have a choice. So funny story. I don't think I was an Islander fan, but there's a picture of me at like my 7th birthday wearing an Alexei Yashin Islanders jersey, and my hair was like painted blue and orange, like in the Islander colors. And I don't even remember like ever liking the Islanders, but I guess you must have just completely turned me into the other way. Like I guess my dad grew up an Islander fan, so I like had that a little bit in me. But I remember vividly you bringing me to. Or I went to a Rangers game with you and our aunt Amy. Rangers Capitals. Yager was on the Capitals. It was 2-2 tie. We went to ESPN Zone before, and I think since that day, I've been a Ranger fan. But
that's like the greatest day ever in like 1999 in New York City.
I actually was saying to my friends last week, they got to bring back ESPN Zone. That shit was so fun.
Yeah, now people just like are on the internet and don't do stuff like that anymore.
Yeah, but just like shooting on the pretend goalie and like I guess it's weird now if you're like 25 doing it.
Yeah, I don't think we can get in there easily without like setting off some red flags.
Definitely not. But let's dive in right away because, like I said in the intro, you are the most opinionated Ranger fan that I know. I've talked to you probably almost every game, I think, at least most games, but you weren't a big fan of the offseason moves that the Rangers made. You didn't really buy into the whole grit thing. So had they surprised you at all in the opening 5 games? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't know if I'm opinionated or just have a loud voice, but I try to be a little nuanced. But yeah, I mean, the grit thing, I had fears around it. Like, I wasn't delusional that like the whole relying on prospects, every prospect to come through and 4 lines of top line type play. I knew that wasn't a realistic idea. It just felt like they went overkill on that because at the end of the day, you have to put the puck in the net. Same with basketball, like, defense and all these other elements of the game, assists, all are very important. But at the end of the day, they keep score, and it's whoever has the more score. And it's kind of been what I feared. I mean, 26 in goals for per game. I looked that up before. For me, I think the grit thing has kind of come out as like, it's cool to be more physical and stuff, but we may not have enough goal scoring. And on top of that, my big fear is that I'm having flashbacks to Henrik Lundqvist's career, where you have believe it or not, Rangers fans don't realize this. If you look at Jacquemin, Richter, Henrik, Igor, if Igor becomes what we think he could become, we basically have 80% of seasons since like 1985 had a top 5-10 goalie in the league. It's a blessing. We got 1 cup out of that. And so this early season, as much as it's very much just an overreaction to a very small sample size, definitely reminds me of, oh God, is he going to have Henrik's career where he has to have a game like Toronto? I mean, that was, we were 4-2-1, but we had no business winning in Toronto and Ottawa. So if we were 2-4-1, as much as Rangers Twitter is freaking out a lot, at 2-4-1, I think we'd all correctly be sounding the alarm bell. And Toronto and Ottawa were wins that didn't feel like, oh, we earned this one.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Those are the games that Igor stole pretty much. But, I'm much happier to have a guy like Igor that can steal games and get wins. And, for lack of a better goalie I could think of, Mike Dunham or, Dan Blackburn. Those are like the 2 goalies that I remember who just like were not good at all. But, it's been great to see Igor come in and steal games. Like, you kind of look at a team like the Toronto Maple Leafs, and they've had the most chances for in the entire NHL, and they just can't score goals. But then again, like, they don't have a goalie that's stealing them the game. So, you kind of got to give and take what you can get. And it's funny to think too, like a guy that's stood out that I've always loved, my favorite player on the Rangers, Chris Kreider. You kind of look at the goals that the Rangers are scoring right now, and it's not coming from Panarin. It's not coming from Zibanejad. I mean, sure, those guys have maybe 1 or 2 goals each, but the goals that we've been scoring are those kind of gritty playoff goals. Like, they're kind of the ugly deflection, garbage goals. So I think, as much as we want goal scoring, the goal scoring that we're getting is what we might need down the road. So it hasn't really been such a disappointment offensively, although we haven't scored many goals. I just look at the goals that we are scoring, and, you think come April, come May, those are the goals that go in. It's not going to be pretty 1, 2, 3 backdoor passes from Mika and Artemi. That's just not going to cut it in the playoffs. So that is a positive sign, I think. But I don't know if you want to counter that or Do you have an opinion on that?
Yeah, no, I'm praying this isn't another Kreider has 20 goals through 25 games and ends the season with 25 goals. Be really cool after signing that big contract. If I mean, he's not so old where he couldn't have his best season ahead of him, especially if he learns. I look like a guy like Joe Pavelski who learned how to score that goal Kreider's scoring this season.
Yeah.
And that's why Pavelski at 38 was still like an offensive dynamo.
Mm-hmm.
Because Kreider, that whole coming up the wing shooting is amazing. But that's going to fade more than I just know how to play in front of the net, be a body, and get pucks, and get my stick on pucks. So that'd be really exciting to keep doing that. I think the positives also early on is we're talking about, the good and the bad. They played 7 in 12 days, a lot on the road, and have been missing Strome and Kakko for a lot of them. That is all important caveats. It just is very weird where we were talking about before we went on the air. It is very weird as a Rangers fan to look at the record and be like, okay, but then the eye test has been, I think, for all of us, cause for concern. But then again, another positive, just to play both sides, they will get better as the season goes on. It is a new coach, a new system, a lot of guys playing higher in the lines than they should. And I think that need to. We need to find out if Kakko and Lafreniere have it or not. But the big downer for me is the third and fourth lines, which have been the bane of our existence for years now. We still don't really have an identity on those, which is something we're going to have to get to that next level.
You got to think about it too, and something that kind of goes under the radar. This team, the core that the Rangers have right now, haven't really been together for a normal season. This is like their first somewhat normal season. Like we got Panarin, I think was it 18-19 or 19-20 was his first year?
I think 18-19.
18-19. So maybe we had one full season of Panarin, but then, Fox comes in, Lindgren comes in, Trouba comes in, all these guys come in, and then, their first season as a team, COVID hits, and then they got 3 months off till the bubble, and then they're playing in the bubble. They kind of have a weird experience. Then last year, no fans. We got Lafreniere, we got Kakko, all these guys, and now this is the first year where they can actually have a normal NHL season and then also a normal NHL life away from the rink. And I think that's so important to like gel as a team off the ice. That's something that I talked about with Dave Maloney when he was on here, how, you can judge chemistry all you want, but chemistry is not built on the ice. It all starts away from the rink. And now that they're on the road, they can go to restaurants, they can spend more time together as a team. I think it's only going to benefit a team like the Rangers even more.
Yeah, I think we forget their people sometimes. I remember Mika's slow start last year. He was coming off COVID. I think it's public at this point. I heard it like through the grapevine, but he also, like, his wife was not able to come from Sweden. Like, there was a lot. I mean, we were all not okay last year. If you were okay, you probably have something wrong with you, like last year. So I think you're right. I mean, I this hockey podcast, let's do Puck Soup. Ryan Lambert, who's a writer for EP Rinkside, he'll like always joke like, "Oh, those 2 fake seasons the NHL had." We're like, I'm really glad they played, but like he's not. And I know he's being dramatic. He's not like totally wrong. Like those were weird seasons, especially like you look at as a guy who never takes a chance not to bash the Islanders. Both those shortened seasons, the Rangers were trending up at game 50 and the Islanders were trending down. And I think the hope for this team is, you've played a lot on the road. You're still 4-2-1 on the road, new coach, new system, bunch of new guys. And if by game 50, you're starting to hit stride and you're still in the wild card picture, that's exactly where you want to be.
Yeah. And I think that's like the realistic goal this team has, right? Like they're not going to, the goal for this year is to make the playoffs, not to, host the first round or have any home ice advantage. It's really just to get there and, have guys like Fox, like Lindgren, like Kakko, like Lafreniere get some playoff experience because, obviously if this team makes a, God forbid, a cup run, like that'd be great, but I don't think anyone's expecting that, So I think just as a fan, like we all just want those guys to get the experience. But I want to rewind a little bit and go back to how you became a Rangers fan because, obviously you're 5 years older than I am, so I don't even know how you got into it originally. I mean, I know, but I don't know fully.
My dad grew up a diehard Rangers fan. I mean, when other kids were hearing about whatever other kids hear about, I was hearing about Mark Messier and the guarantee, and I was hearing about, my dad is, me and him are both like very much the self-loathing New York fans. So I was also hearing about them trading Leach on his birthday and trading Jacquemin. So we love to hate the Rangers, but we also love the Rangers. So that was always, my dad used to, there's a guy who was on my little league baseball team. And he says, my dad used to say, "Let's go Rangers," before he went out to the field. And our team name was not the Rangers. So that was always a way of life with me.
You do that a lot too. I feel like an awkward silence, you'll pump out a "Let's go Rangers."
It's a catch-all. I have no regrets with that. But there's, in fifth grade I wrote an article. Not an article. It's like a fifth grade paper.
Quite the writer.
In fifth grade I wrote, published in the Atlantic. No, in fifth grade I wrote a thing that about. I guess the assignment was, where do you feel home? And I wrote about Madison Square Garden. So I've been indoctrinated for quite some time with this, and that's why, when I talk about my Rangers experience, I mean, Henrik is such a huge part of it, because it was. For a lot of us, he's, not being a Yankees fan, when you're around our age, Henrik is the New York icon. Obviously, Jeter, the reason I say Yankees, because Jeter is unbelievable. I'm a Mets fan. I'm willing to admit that. The Met, Eli won. He was never that cool. The Mets are the Mets. The Knicks have been the Knicks, despite the fact that right now I'm really excited about them.
Yeah.
Henrik Lundqvist was this consistent, great, I think underrated by non-Rangers fans as well. And that's why he was such a big part of my Ranger fandom, but also why I'm really hoping, and the grit thing freaked me out a little bit, that we learned from why we didn't win with him. We were the black and blue shirts, and that was fun and all, but there's no cup, because Anze Kopitar was a better player than anyone on our team.
Yeah.
We were going to these series and we didn't have the best guy on the ice. So I'm hoping we learn from that. I'm answering your question way too long, but
no, it's good.
Panarin, Zibanejad, and Fox are better than anyone who probably Henrik ever played with. And so that is the one saving grace. We can screw up other stuff around. We can mess around. We traded Booch. That actually doesn't look so bad right now. Blay looks really good. Yeah. But you have three guys who are staples of, like, I would go to battle with Kreider, Zibanejad, and Fox. Panarin, Zibanejad, and Fox as your top three. You can go into playoff series with like that. That contends with the top three on any team in the league.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think, for the Rangers of the past, like that 2014, 2015, I think the biggest thing was down the middle, right? Like their centers were not that deep. Who was it? We had good centers. That, don't get me wrong, they were good centers.
Eric Stippen was never a one.
Never a one. And then who was two? Brassard, and then Dominic Moore was four. Who was even three? I don't even know who three was. Brian Boyle, maybe? Was Brian Boyle three?
Yeah, very possibly. And the fact that we don't remember it is not great.
Yeah, but I think that's been a huge focus now. I mean, that's a lot of the reason why there was talk about Eichel, because you see all these Stanley Cup teams and they're deep down the middle, because that's like the most important position on the ice, aside from the goalie, obviously, because, centers cover the entire rink. So I think that's got to be the focus too, is to get a true, Ryan Strome has been great and Panarin makes him look great, but that's the next step, I think, for the Rangers, is just to get another true, number two center, because I think Mika has proved himself as a number one. I kind of wanted to bring this up too. For anyone who doesn't know Jason, you can tell his Ranger fandom because he turned 30 this summer, and I got him a Mika Zibanejad jersey, and you would have thought he was 12 years old getting his first Ranger jersey when he put it on.
Yeah, man, that was awesome. I haven't been bought a jersey in such a long time. Yeah. It's still awesome.
It was so funny. I was like, I actually just thought of that. I wasn't even going to bring it up, but like, it's so funny handing a 30-year-old man a Ranger jersey and having him throw it on like he's 12 years old. It also, awesome.
I will say, I was totally prepared, because you got me that jersey, for him to be traded for Eichel or something. And the fact that he was re-signed was like against everything. You buy a jersey and you're like, all right, how is this going to not age well? Like, Mika's going to be a jersey.
He'll retire a Ranger probably. Yeah, he'll retire a Ranger.
Yeah, which becomes an evergreen jersey. That becomes a jersey you can wear 10 years from now and it's still in style, versus you have a Peter Pruka and then Artem Anisimov, I believe, if I'm correct.
My jersey lineup is Avery, Lindros, and Anisimov. I think the Pruka jersey is a little too small for me. I might have been passed down. But so my birthday's coming up in March. I don't know. I can't think of anything I want, but if you have anything in mind.
Is it weird to get you Fox because you know him? Is it weird to have your friend's jersey? I don't.
See, I feel like I should. I saw Tammy and Bruce Fox at the home opener, and I was saying, man, he's been in the league for almost 3 years now, and I don't even have a Fox jersey yet. I kind of feel like I should have one. So I'm either going to buy it or you can buy it for me.
This is very subtle. I don't know what I'm going to do. But the one, because you haven't had smoke blown up your ass on this podcast yet, Johnny was a very good hockey player, and you can tell because I told him last year, halfway through the season, there was a significant chance, and it may happen again this year, that the three finalists for the Norris could all be guys you talk to regularly. Charlie, Kale, and Fox could be the top three. I know Charlie you're not as close with, but if you texted Charlie or at the Bruins game, he'd make time to see you.
No, I'm actually closer with Charlie and Adam than I am with Kale. I don't really talk to Kale that much anymore, but
either way, guys you commiserate with could be the three finalists for the Norris, which is pretty crazy.
It's crazy to see too, and Charlie signing that huge contract, and Adam basically taking all the money he wants from New York when he gets that contract. It's kind of cool to think about two Long Island boys, who grew up that weren't necessarily, I know we knew Fox growing up, so everyone knew how good he was, but in the grand scheme of the hockey world, it was never like, McAvoy and Fox are going to make the NHL one day. Like, that Charlie especially was a late bloomer. He, really made a name for himself in like 11th grade when he went to the National Development Program. And Adam was a 3rd round draft pick. So, I've actually said this in the podcast before, but and you could tell a story too about Adam going to sleepaway camp with us. I know you coached him in sleepaway camp one summer, but people were just questioning if he'd even make the NHL, let alone dominate and win a Norris. So it is really cool, but I'll let you tell that story.
I did coach him in a pre-color war game, which I believe is the only reason he's made it this far, but that can't be confirmed. And either way, like, he was the only kid who could skate on our team because they tried to make it even by putting every other kid who could skate. We were down 2-1 at the end of the first because he kept passing. Mm-hmm. I told him to stop passing. Brilliant coaching. We won 12-2. He had 11 goals in the next 2 periods. It was an adjustment we needed to make on the fly to have Adam shoot all the pucks.
You were a young Gerard Gallant. It's actually funny too. I remember when Adam first made the Rangers, you told me to text him, "Hey, do you remember Jason Bisnoff?"
Yeah, and that didn't work out how I was hoping. My father-in-law still thinks that, like, somehow we're gonna get beers with him, and, like, realistically, if we ever saw you at a game, it could happen. But he thinks it's like way more casual. Yeah. He thinks he's also our cousin. I'm like, that's not the case.
No, definitely not the case. But I want to go back again to your early Ranger fandom. What was your, I guess, not like biggest or coolest moment? Because, obviously I feel like the Stanley Cup would be there, but just like most memorable moment as a fan, and then, the most disappointing moment as a fan.
Most memorable was, it's cliche, but my wife and me had just started dating like a year and a half ago, and she knows a huge Rangers fan, and they made the finals, and I started crying, and she's like, didn't expect me to be that emotional. And I was like, you don't understand. And now she's finally, because she's only seen like the end of the Henrik tenure, and she thought we just make the playoffs and we win playoff rounds. Like, this just doesn't happen. And now she's seeing like the real deal, that you can go be stuck in the wilderness for years. Making the finals was unbelievable. It's one of those things that beyond just doing it, but that team we grew up with, we like kind of saw them progress. And Henrik being, I'm going to hit my quota of the times I mentioned Henrik here. Yeah. Henrik finally getting there. And then similarly, that whole series was gut-wrenching. I think every Rangers fan knows this stat, but it still is bewildering. If you actually look, they were not trailing in regulation ever in LA. They lost in overtime, which means you never trail. Yeah. So they actually never were down. They were never down a goal in LA. And I think the series was over probably with that. Funny story, I went to the Garden for game 3 to go to scalp a ticket. And I was like, I had $600 in my pocket. I probably had $1,200 to my name in cash. And I was like, this is the most I'm spending. Like 10 minutes before the puck drop, I finally get that offer. And it just, something about it, I was like, I don't feel right about this. And I didn't go, and they lost 3-0. It was like the only game that was non-competitive. And boy, am I glad I didn't go to that. But that was such a roller coaster, because after they lost that, it also kind of felt like that may have been Henrik's shot. And that may have been that team's shot in the Henrik era. And it turned out that's what it was.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I actually thought our chances were better in 2015, and then, laid an egg, home ice game 5 and game 7 against Tampa, which actually our other cousin Michael, I'll give a shout out to. It was his first Ranger game, I think game 5, when they got shut out at home, and I was like, never fucking go to another game again.
Don't even look at the Garden.
Yeah, seriously, don't even sniff it. Now he's an Oklahoma City Thunder fan, so we did the best that we could. He doesn't even watch hockey.
Which they actually have been tanking for 6 straight seasons. I don't know what's going on there, but that's another conversation.
Yeah, but I also want to talk about other teams around the league. Obviously you're a huge hockey fan, not just a Ranger fan. Who have you enjoyed watching so far this season aside from the Rangers?
This is such a bad form thing. I kind of want to see Toronto do something. I know you're supposed to all shit on them because they're
I agree.
I think they're fun to watch. I think Austin Matthews is just like an awesome guy. He's actually cool, and he's a hockey player, and he has interests, and he's a hockey player besides like supporting the team or whatever it is that generic hockey players are interested in. More than anything, I'll tell you, I am blown away that the NHL did something right. The NHL did TNT and ESPN, and it's been great. And it is always shocking when the NHL doesn't do the worst thing for their fans, because that is what they like to do. If you need an example, see the Offsides review. But
Yeah, I hate that.
when it works out in the Rangers' favor, I'm like, I still don't like this.
Let's try to make the players score more goals and add more scoring, but let's also call a goal off if a guy's legs in the air instead of on the ice.
And like the Panarin one, like a couple games ago, like they were in the zone for 20 seconds. The team had 2 chances to clear.
Yeah.
Like the offsides was no longer relevant.
Dumb.
Yeah. The worst time that ever played in, which people, I tweeted about it to no avail. PK Subban, when he was like electric and like a big personality, scored the first goal of the finals, and it was brought back. And it was like, this is why people don't like.
In Nashville. Yeah.
He had this ill rip.
Yeah.
And this is like the first game of the finals, probably the biggest audience the NHL gets in a season. This is why people don't like our sport.
I remember that.
Oh, PK Subban, I've heard of him. He's bringing diversity to the game. He's exciting. He's fashionable. Scores this rocket goal. Let's look for a technicality to take that off the board.
Yeah. I think Pittsburgh also in that game, I like vividly remember that game. They ended up going up 3-0, and then Nashville actually came back, tied it at 3, and then Pittsburgh didn't even have a shot on goal for 25 minutes, and then Gensel came down the right side and fucking sniped Pecorino glove side.
Isn't a African-American defenseman with personality playing for a non-traditional market scoring the first goal of game 1 of the finals? That's what we're all hoping for to grow the game. It's 20 seconds earlier, a guy's skate was in the air. We can't let this happen. It's like, oh my God.
You actually had a great tweet last year. I remember it was great to see the future of New York's blue line lies in a Jew and an African-American.
And it's very New York. And I think that is another thing about this team. Trouba is the most, who watches the game based on their views on Trouba. Because he definitely has not been this padding the stat sheet like he did in Winnipeg, but that guy is just this stalwart, this
he's Dan Girardi, better Dan Girardi,
and more talented. But yes, in a lot of ways, Keandre is quietly having a little sophomore slump, which hopefully is just a little growing pains. He's carrying that guy, and he seems to be a great locker room presence. Seems to be just a good person too. I mean, his wife's a doctor, and he's been talking about the science behind the vaccines and talking to other players about it. Just seems like a good guy. And that's another thing with this team, where if you want to criticize some of the games, whatever, we have a really solid top 4 on defense, which is something, again, there is a lot to be happy about. It's just, I think we're all anxious to see that next step, and that's where we're all getting a little anxious and impatient.
So I want to ask you, on top of that, who surprised you this year and who's disappointed you so far? And one thing I want to add before you go is that, we talked a lot in the offseason about Ryan Reeves. I don't think
love that man.
But he hasn't even dropped the gloves yet.
Yeah, I said this to you. I am not one for fighting's awesome, but after all that buildup, we didn't punch Tom Wilson.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't even have thought we had to unless we got every gritty guy ever. Jared Tendori's on this team. I don't know who that person is. I know he's
Tenori.
Exactly.
Yeah.
my point exactly.
Yeah.
We left but we didn't punch the guy. But yeah, who's impressed me? Reeves is just a culture, locker room.
Yeah.
I love having him on our side. That's not a real, Blais has been really impressed me. Incredibly. I think the top 6 I kind of expected to be good, so there's not a lot of splashy. I actually think Strome's absence has impressed me, where I'm actually, maybe this guy is more important than we think, and maybe the whole he's just a short term is misguided.
Yeah.
Maybe he is a legit 2 center for 3 or 4 years. And the disappointment, Hedl, I'm waiting for that jump, and I'm starting to think we may be in trouble with when that jump's going to come. And that's been really upsetting, because I've been in his corner. I mean, he had that hat trick in the preseason, but maybe it's just because he has instability around him. But he's been someone who I think a ton of our season, he's a linchpin for the season in a lot of ways. If he can make a productive third line, hasn't really been there. It's early, but he's been a little disappointing, especially because, like I said, how many years are we going to go, this is Hedl's year? Lafreniere and Kakko have significant less time in the league. I think he's in his 4th year at this point, Hedl.
4 or 5, yeah. 4 or 5.
Yeah. That's been a disappointment. But the big thing, like I said, is the Booch trade, which I was kind of down on at first. Blais can play. Blais belongs on a third line. And I mean, that pass to Lafreniere was unbelievable. And he also throws his body a lot. He's kind of that prototypical, talk about grit. He's the actual, I'm gritty, but I'm not a negative where I don't know how to play hockey. They're, a Donald Brashear, for instance, who genuinely couldn't play hockey. So
yeah. No, yeah, I completely agree. Sammy Blais has shown a lot of silky mitts, actually. He's I think his goal in the preseason was nasty too. I remember he had a
Yeah.
a nice toe drag goal in the preseason. But it's all confidence, right? Like that's really all it is for these guys. Like they got to get some confidence, and they haven't really been able to score, especially on home ice. You know what? The home opener, they scored 2 goals. Last game against Calgary, they scored 1 goal, and they've had their chances. They just can't bury. But this is going to come out on Friday on game day. They're playing Columbus at home. What are your expectations? Or I guess not your expectations. What is your prediction for the game against Columbus Friday night at home?
I think getting back home, I think a little more rest. I think they may start getting into a flow. A team like Columbus is the kind of team you want to get. It's divisional, so it feels more important, but they don't have much. Their roster's lacking. I mean, it's sad. They really actually are really well. They seem to be really good at getting good players, which is what it takes as a GM. They seem to be, unfortunately, they're in Columbus, which I've never been to, but apparently is not a place hockey players like to live. Mm-hmm. I think they'll get on track a little bit. Another disappointment, by the way, Barclay Goodrow has been promised as like the soul of the Lightning's 2 cups. I don't see it yet. And 3 points. And keep in mind, I've done this math in my head, and I love Kreider, and I don't want to. This may upset you. Kreider is 6 and change. Goodrow is 3 and change. If you add those, it's about 10. You know who makes about 10? Jack Eichel. So the money that could have been going to Jack Eichel and Zibanejad went to those 2 guys, sort of indirectly, and that is something that I'm hoping they live up to. Maybe I'm too hard on Goodrow early.
Mm-hmm. I think he's been, he was definitely overpaid, but that's what happens when you win the Stanley Cup, right? Like you just earn more money if you're a champion. That's what people want you on their team for. But I think, he's kind of performed like how I expected him. Like he's not like some super skilled guy that's going to be flashy and do the oohs and ahs and get the fans' attention. But, he's one of those guys like similar to a Brett Howden that just like does those little things and kind of goes unnoticed.
You're going to trigger a lot of Twitter with that. Just so
Brett Howden was a great two-way forward. I mean, he wasn't.
I liked Brett Howden, but my God on Twitter is he disliked.
Oh, he's disliked by every Ranger fan, but like so many people just look at the stats and look at the points and don't actually watch the 200-foot player. Like Brett Howden was on every penalty kill. Like he did the little things that like go unnoticed. That
That's okay. Kevin Rooney's name hasn't come up, and Kevin Rooney's like a perfect 4th line center. Just does what, like not going to change the world. Big, decent in the circle, which that has been a clusterfuck this season. Sorry, Mom and Aunt Karen. But that has been, the faceoff circle. He's solid in there. You have to have an awareness. And I think that's something that Rangers fans have to be aware that you need different complexion to the lines. And the problem with some of the Jeff Gorton era is we started counting our chickens on look at these prospects. If they all pan out, we have an all-star team. And it's like that would happen with every team that's rebuilding. The whole thing is you lay 50 eggs and 10 of them come out. You're never going to have every prospect pan out. Would I have liked 2 of our top 10 prospects to not have demanded to leave the organization? Perhaps, but some are. You're never going to get every single one of them, and so that's where you. As much I would have paid him less. That's where Barclay Goodrow's roster spot comes in.
Yeah, and then who knows? Like at the trade deadline, we could be trading some prospects depending on where our record is, because it's definitely toward the end of the rebuild. I don't think you could say the Rangers are rebuilding anymore.
I agree. The problem is if it's near the end of the rebuild, that's really counting on Kakko and Lafreniere becoming what we think they can.
Yeah.
The weird part about the Eichel thing, because I still think it's possible, though very much less likely. Mm-hmm. Is it actually weirdly would be a move they'd probably make if they were out of playoff contention, not in?
Because he can't play this year, probably.
Because he can't. Yeah, if you're already out of playoff contention and you had decided Hedo's not the guy or whatever, you actually there is a smart punt a year, because if they were able to, and this was all of our dreams all offseason. I mean, if you're running Eichel, Zibanejad up the middle, that is Braden Point, Steven Stamkos. That is what won those cups. Was this? Mm-hmm. You can say all you want about the Killorns of the world, which are great. Islanders fans like to talk about Clutterbuck wins rings. No, Matt Barzal probably does more. Like that's like
Clutterbuck's good though, man. He is good. I do like him. He's good.
He's very good. But with the Islanders fans with this whole 4th line obsession is like, dude, Barry Trotz is a genius. That's the reason you guys are what you are. But yeah, that would be that's an interesting wrinkle to the trade deadline, is that Eichel actually would be a move not to compete. It'd be a move to say we're willing to delay competing, because when we do compete at full force, we are formidable.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I'm gonna wrap it up. I'm gonna let you like plug whatever you want. Do you have anything else you want to say? I know you have.
No, and I have nothing to plug. No, but do you have any stats you want to add? You didn't really say any stats. No, I think I'm good. Yeah, this was great. Did it go well?
Well, I'm gonna wrap it up after. Yeah, it's been fun. I just don't know if
Oh,
you. It's just annoying because there's only like one game coming up. You can't like, I'll ask you about a hot take actually if you
are
want.
they off from today till Friday?
What's up?
They're off till Friday?
Yeah, they're off till Friday.
Like literally, they don't. Oh, yeah. I guess I didn't look. That's all. They need that. That's good.
Yeah.
All right,
Okay,
hot take. Well, let me get ready for that. Wait.
Yeah.
This is not so hot, but
Okay.
it's reasonable.
All right. Before I let you go, even though I'm probably going to call you right after to talk about it, I'm going to let you give your hottest take either for the Rangers or just in the NHL in general.
I don't know how hot this is, but I know that it's controversial because it's been a topic that's been debated a lot. I don't mind that the Rangers held off on captain, only because I think the last couple of captains kind of haven't been great. Callahan was a really soulful guy, but never that good of a hockey player. And for what it's worth, a few years later, kind of demanded out because we didn't pay him enough, which was not a great look. Mm-hmm. And McDonough, as much as he was good, kind of peaked early, and we ended up trading him for a terrible trade. Like, you want a captain, you want the Messier, you want the brought us to the promised land, was a career Ranger.
All right, how many of those are there?
There aren't a ton for sure. But I'm just saying, if no one emerged, I don't think there's some obvious captain we've been neglecting. And quite frankly, that may be because Adam Fox in 3 years or 2 years, when he has more of a voice in the room, he's not, he probably feels weird standing up in the room and yelling at his teammates just now. Maybe that's the thought process. But I don't know if there's such an obvious captain right now. Kreider being the Callahan model, where he's like the soul, but he's not as talented as you want a captain. A lot of the captains out there are just the most talented guys on the team. And then like Panarin and Mika don't seem to be as outspoken as you'd want. So I'm okay with, I like the C carrying real weight. And I feel like the last two, not Callahan and McDonough's fault necessarily, though Callahan did kind of get greedy, but I don't love it happening and then they're gone 2 years later. It rubs me the wrong way.
That's a really controversial opinion, I think. I might have to make that the social media clip because I feel like a lot of people would. I kind of disagree. I think Callahan and McDonough were fucking awesome. Those are the guys who, put their heart and soul and lay their body on the line every single night. That's like what you expect and what you want in your captain. Mika Zibanejad's not diving face first to block a shot anytime soon,
Well, this is why you played hockey at higher levels than me, my man. You've been in those locker rooms. I don't know. Maybe Messier set an impossible standard. I grew up.
Well, yeah, he was the best captain of all time.
Yeah, he is the captain. So maybe there's that. But I look around the league and there's like there's some that are forced and there's some, and I'm trying to think of good examples and I really can't come up with any. Maybe this point is going to fall on its face. There's
of captains right now, you're saying?
Who are just like, that guy is the captain of that team. And like,
what comes to mind for me, the first one, even though it's obviously very controversial right now, but like when I think of a captain of the last decade in the NHL, Jonathan Toews is the first guy that comes to mind for me.
Yeah, exactly. That is the guy who's like the captain of that team. And also one of the two or like been to all-star games and stuff. Yeah. That's not so important, but I do think there's the guy who's putting the puck in big moments, people look to. And so that's where Callahan was great, but like there was a lack of that. Did that guy ever have 25 in a season?
I don't know, but he had 4 in one game, I remember, and he had a nasty goal in that game against Philadelphia. I'll never forget that one.
But my point being, it's nice when you can find that convergence of that. And so I don't mind them holding off. I do think, though, to give in a little bit to this hot take or whatever, I do think that maybe it does limit your ceiling if you don't. It may bring the team, so it may galvanize the team in some way. Maybe in the middle of the season that can be used. I'm not sure. I love the Gallant hire, so I'm giving him a lot of rope for a couple of years till I start criticizing what he does. I'm not going to start burning torches just yet.
I'll give you another underrated captain, actually. I don't know why this came to mind because there's obviously there's probably way better options. Like we could have said Crosby, could have said Ovechkin, but Jamie Benn is like an amazing captain. I feel like
I'm glad you said like, no, Crosby's like, I guess Crosby but he's not so, oh my God, Ryan O'Reilly, he's the captain, right?
Yeah, he's the captain.
That's like a captain. Like he's like I want to follow that man into war. Like the beard, and he's out in the middle getting pushed around as well as scoring, doing pretty plays. I love that. Again, you can't always have those guys, unfortunately. So
you can't have Sidney Crosby in your team and not have him where the C. Like it's just
that's like Connor too. I don't know how Connor seems like a pretty sheepish, quiet guy. but like he's the greatest player I've ever watched in my life. You're gonna put if he wants the seat, it's his.
Yeah, seriously. Before I let you go, obviously you're an established writer. If there's anything you want to plug, where can people find you? I know you have a book. If you want to mention that.
Yeah, I have a book and I write about stuff that has nothing to do with this.
I've known him my whole life, and I still don't even know what he's talking about.
Yeah, I do write on Forbes, though this isn't. My boss would want me to say this is an unaffiliated appearance from Forbes. I do not write about the Rangers on Forbes, though I probably shouldn't because I'd probably be much less professional. And I have a book called Fake Politics, which also has nothing to do with this, as you can probably tell from the title. But if for some reason if you listen to this and you go, I also like politics, then sure, I could use the royalties.
Yeah, Fake Politics is all about Henrik Lundqvist going into the Hall of Fame.
And that book would be really unprofessional. It would just be it would be more of a love letter, if anything.
Yeah, for sure. But I love you. Thank you for coming on.
Love you too. I'm glad I like I said, I'm glad I made this on. I guess I'm not Jewish enough for the locker room, but I'll take what I can get.
Yeah, we'll cross that road when we get there at some point. Love you.
All right, buddy. Later.